2021 meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome all of you in attendance. It seems like it's been too long since we've had several people in the audience, so welcome. It's good to see some masked faces out there. Couple announcements. We were notified this week that North Carolina DOT is going to be doing some significant road maintenance at Bridleville Falls or near Bridleville Falls on the Highlands Road. They're going to be closing the road from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day with one-lane signalized traffic. Let's see the dates. It'll be the last week of March. I'm sure they're going to be doing some more as we get a little bit closer. It's only, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so they'll be doing some more announcements as we get closer, but I would say Buck Creek Road's about to get very popular. Lori, you have an update on Macon Middle School?
Oh, sure. Didn't know I was going now.
Happy birthday. Maybe happy birthday to the county.
Yeah, happy birthday to the
You had the
county.
public hearing, is that what that is?
No. I was just going to give you an update on the bond sale. So the bond sale was yesterday morning between 10 and 11:30 a.m. It was very successful. We actually received orders for 6.5 times of the amount more bonds than we had available to sell. So, we had right at 19 million to sell. We received orders for 125 million, which is a good thing.
Wow.
Because that,
Wow.
that allowed the underwriter to go back and where they were oversold in the different years to negotiate, with the people that had put in the orders and lower the interest rates a little bit. So the county's all-in true interest cost was 1.81%. So we were very pleased with that number. If you'll, when we first started this process a few months ago about looking at bank loan versus public sale, the best bank loan we had for a 20-year term was an all-in true interest cost of 2.16%. So again, we got an all-in true interest cost of 1.81%. So the total debt service payments by going a public sale versus a bank loan, it's going to save the county about $672,000 over the life of the loan. So we rolled the dice and gambled a little bit, and it paid off. So.
Okay. Lori, I'm going to get you to negotiate the financing in my home next time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other announcements? Nobody? All right, we'll all rise. We'll observe a moment of silence. We need to keep our interim county attorney, Kim Carpenter. Her mother passed away, so she is not with us tonight. And Vice Mayor of Franklin, Barbara McCrae. Let's ask, after a moment, we'll ask Commissioner Shields to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
No, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we do not have any, sorry, can you hear me okay? I didn't realize my microphone was up. We don't have any public hearings, public comment period. Chris, do you mind handing me the sheet? Is it over there? Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Forgot to grab it. All right, James Clink, Friends of the Greenway.
This is the first meeting I've come to the public comments section. How long do I have to speak, roughly?
We try and keep it around 5 minutes.
Okay,
but there's some leniency there.
All right, okay, I'll be as tidy as I can with my time here. All right, thank you very much. I come to you today as the chairman for the Board of Directors for Friends of the Greenway, and at our February board meeting, which Mr. Gary Shields is the council rep, or, the commissioner rep. He suggested it's been a long time, if ever, someone's come to talk to the county commissioners, to let people know what's going on the Greenway, what we're doing, and to kind of get us back in the public eye. The last 4 or 5 years has been difficult for us. Our office is right there where they closed off the bridge for three years, almost did us in. We're just getting back on our feet, and then COVID hit, so it's been a tough few years for us to get going. But we are alive and we're kicking. As you know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Our offices are at 573 East Main Street, and it was established back in 2001 with the purpose of serving the public through restoration, protection, and enhancement of the natural resources of the Greenway, which stretches along the Little Tennessee River and Courthouse Creek. We currently have 7 board members. We're allowed to have up to 15 according to our charter, so any volunteers, love to have more board members. We do have a pretty strong membership, over 130 right now, and we get more every week, so it's keeping us afloat and keeping us alive here. We are basically funded through annual membership fees. We have a small coffee shop that we get sales from, a gift shop, and donations, and we have 2 local artisan craft fairs, which we just started in the last couple of years, which have been very successful for us, and the vendors love it. So, at the prior to our last meeting, the board of directors, we had a strategy and planning meeting, and we decided that over the next year, we're really going to focus on identifying and emphasizing the historical significance of the Little Tennessee River, how it all plays into the cultural heritage of our community here. It has a long and storied history from, the Bartram as being there and walked those paths, walked those shores with these significant stops at the Niquosi Mound and so forth. All that's been documented quite well. Some of the things we're working on, all right, are signage. We want to improve the educational and informational signage that comes along the Greenway. There's so many things on the Greenway that are just there that people don't know the history behind, how it got there. We have 3 bridges, each of them have a history and how they were built and who paid for them and all this. We're trying to get all that up to speed. There's a area behind the library. It's on the Courthouse Creek Bluff area, and it's been designated as a North Carolina Natural Heritage Program nature area, and it's had that designation for several years. It's a very unique environment that's not found anywhere else in the Western Carolinas, just because of the trees and the plants. There are some endangered plants back there. All of that needs to be protected. So the problem with that area now is that it's used a lot. People walk through it, but people have walked, not on the trails, but have made their own trails. They've cut the corners off the switchbacks. They've made trails going directly down the fall line, all of which leads to erosion and compromise of the hillside. So we're going to try and work on, again, signage to alert people that they're not supposed to do that, to highlight the area as a natural resource. And we're going to try to get some volunteers to help repair the trails and cut off some of the parts where people aren't supposed to be going, to kind of preserve that area. All those freelance trails we're just going to try and get rid of. Also on our agenda for this year is a partnership with the Niquosi Initiative concerning a heritage apple project. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but about a half mile north of the bridges, right off the side of the trail, is a very old apple tree. It's a heritage apple, and I can't remember exactly what variety it is. Anybody? I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was spotted actually by, I believe, David Anderson, who works with the Niquosi Initiative. He is the horticulturist with the Eastern Band of the Cherokee, and this tree is enormous. For an apple tree, it's probably 12 or 14 inches in diameter. It's very old. That's his thing. He spotted it, and that kind of led us to the assumption that we need to protect that thing. It's been there a very long time. We don't know where it came from, who planted it, but it is a historic piece of natural habitat there. The plans are now they're going to put in a orchard around that tree with other heritage apple trees and a forage garden full of naturally occurring vegetables, plant life that were traditionally used by Native Americans and so forth. So that's a good thing. Let me see. We are implementing right now, as a matter of fact, what we call the HOPS project. You may not know it, but about 100 yards south of the Centennial Circle there are Native American hops growing. Those are not known to grow in this area naturally. They had to be planted there. We're assuming that came either a couple of places. Either the native population planted them hundreds of years ago and they're just a remnant holding on, or they were planted by some of the first settlers that were farming that land in the floodplain of the river. Our goal is to preserve them, protect them, and make along the Greenway, a observation spot, just a significant historical spot where we can show how they were cultivated in the past, how they're cultivated now, but just develop that with signage and historical data so that we can add another spot on the Greenway, tying us into the history of the region here. Okay. Let me see. That's a few things on the Greenway we're going to do. At the Greenway offices, we're moving forward with new landscaping. It has not escaped us that there are big things happening on the east end of Franklin. There's going to be a lot of money dumped in there. There's going to be a lot of improvements made by in line with the cultural corridor that's being developed. And we're front row center for all that, and we don't want to be the ugliest house in the neighborhood. We want to get up front of that and be the nicest house in the neighborhood, so we can kind of set the tone. So we're landscaping the front and the sides. We're planning on putting a garden in the back along the riverfront, which has an observation platform that looks down on the Greenway, which will tie in part of the hops project, tie in the apple tree project. We'll have a dye garden for plants that were used to dye fabrics and so forth. Just another informational and educational spot along the Greenway that people can enjoy and learn something when they come in. Internally, we're still working at making the Greenway office more of a welcome center for the Greenway. We're hoping to eventually get to a point where we can have educational courses about the Greenway, whether we have art classes, photography classes, so forth, that we can give something to the community at the Greenway that they can come in at low cost and get things they may not get anywhere else. Let me see here. Of course, we always have tons of documentation and stuff we need to get organized. But there's no shortage of projects for us to get involved with, and no shortage of projects that need work. Again, one thing that's looking into the future, I would say a big thing is, and I think we're going to talk about it tonight, is the interconnector of the two sections underneath the bridges. I believe that's on the agenda tonight, which is, thank you. The other thing is the state of the Greenway in itself. There's a lot of areas that are in significant disrepair. We've had a lot of flooding, a lot of erosion. Part of the loop by that Centennial Circle down there is just about up to the pavement, fallen off. There's 2 or 3 other areas that are just very bad. We really need some money put at it that that we need to get fixed. We also just need people. You know, all these projects we have rely on individuals and people civic-minded to sit on the board of directors, to help us make these decisions, and just to be hands to help carry out the actual work that needs to get done. So, right now, we're not sticking our hand out for money yet, but, you know, just little projects we need to get done. With that, do you have any questions for me that I will do my best to try to answer?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just add that on the bank restoration, I did talk to Doug Johnson at the Extension Service. If you remember, the money they got before for bank restorations for farming areas. But we're gonna ask Doug if he can pursue money for recreation
Right.
areas. We did that behind where the community building is. We did get that money at one time, so we will pursue that with the Extension Service. Mr. Manager, do you think that's the best idea? I mean, there's always, we know we can get the money for farming. With recreation, for some reason, it's a little tougher, but we'll give that a shot.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. That's, I just don't want to see anybody hurt down there, and it's, some places are really, really close to falling in.
Jim, I want to take an opportunity to introduce some of your people
Oh,
I see Rita back
yep.
there.
If I support here, brought my own cheering section here. My wife, Pat, this is Rita St. Clair. Tom, Elena, George, all board members that are, do more with less is our thing. You know, you only have a few, so.
Why don't you ask Ms. St. Clair how many years she's been involved in there?
No, I'm not gonna ask that.
Ask her. The folks need to know that.
Yeah,
Ms. St. Clair, would you please stand and tell us how long you've been involved with the Greenway and Frog?
Since about 2014, I believe, that I belonged to the Franklin Bird Club, and the frogs came to that group and said, we'd love to have a representative, and that's where I've been ever since.
she really is
We
the,
appreciate it.
she really is the glue that kind of holds us together, so we appreciate her
Yep.
immensely. And George, thank you very much. George is part of the Bird Club as well. All those bluebird nesting boxes, that's his work. He puts them up, he maintains them, he cleans them, he repairs them. So we thank you for that too, George.
Elena oversees the butterfly garden volunteers,
Yep.
so.
And she drags her husband Tommy along.
And the community garden is cranking back up this year.
Oh, it's not the community, oh, it is for you.
It is.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh,
The
good.
demand is done, and the plots have done and been, we could have sold 3 times as many as any, because they missed last year, you know,
Oh,
so,
definitely.
it's gonna crank back up.
Good,
So,
wonderful.
Thank you, Jim.
Right.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Norell Kirkland.
Well, gentlemen, you can't see the smile on my face, but have you enjoyed your 13-month vacation? You mentioned you haven't seen certain people, and I haven't been here since last January, so it's good to be back. There are some accolades that are in order. I think everybody here would stand and clap along with me. Thank you for doing the job you do. I don't think any of us, other than 1941, have seen a year like 2020, and we really appreciate your staying in the saddle and doing your work. I do want to mention that Jerry and Terry Browning, who do the work out on the Greenway, is their livelihood. They're very faithful, courteous, and diligent, and we're really lucky to have them. Now, for the tough stuff. As you 5 know, I've been coming at you for years talking about the Greenway, and I'll introduce you, Mr. Young, and to my persistence. We've really got to do something. As you just heard, there are 2 sections that I denoted on here where if you don't act within a few months, nature is going to come along and sweep the underpinnings of the Greenway away, and all of a sudden, a 2-day project is going to become a 3-week major expense. You've already experienced that on the northern section. I think 6 years or so ago, we had to put boulders in there to shore it up, and that's what we've got to avoid. But for the safety of people walking the Greenway, there are several places left over from Hurricane Ivan, and talk about someone being devoted to the Greenway. I've been active here since 2002. The Traco made some very bad surface indentations. Nobody's ever gotten around to fixing them. And so if the map is clear and the legends speak for themselves, those are the key points on the Greenway proper that need to be addressed. From my standpoint, who like to bicycle, I can't run or walk after my paralysis, but I can bicycle, but I can't go on the southern section because you've got 3 sections there that are still gravel, and that's far too unsafe. The points that I've made here, I estimate would definitely be less than $20,000 total. And with some volunteer services from the paving company, maybe you could even save on that. So it's high time we get on this. We've read in the paper that you've come through some money that you didn't expect. Please don't put it all toward the schools. They're very vital and important, and of course, we want to educate our children and keep them safe. But us old folks, we need some attention too. After all, we're the ones that pay the taxes. Do you have my phone number if anybody needs to call me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing more now.
Anyone else like to speak to the board? Going once, going twice? All right. Any additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to remove 9C.
Remove 9C.
Mr. Gibbs can't be with us tonight. He informed me of that earlier today due to COVID-19 protocol.
Okay.
Also, we need to remove item 11F, grant agreement with Balsam West to expand broadband services. We're not going to get to that tonight, this month. We also need to move under new business. We have Mr. Jenkins here, who's going to be giving us a update, which will entail a request by Skyrunner to locate equipment on the courthouse to provide the Lyndon B. Johnson Job Corps Center with broadband internet service. That's something we've been working on for about 3 years now, and we're glad to see that come to fruition. Mr. Jenkins is here going to tell us a little bit more about that. Also,
Where did you want to put that down? I'm sorry.
on 10, it will be 10A.
10A,
Under
okay.
old business. And if we could, on E, lease of Macon Middle School with Macon County Board of Education, we need to add an E1 there, and it would be to authorize the county manager to execute the construction contract on that project. We approved the construction firm at the last meeting, but Lori and I were discussing today, and I don't think I was authorized to execute the contract. So we'll go ahead and firm that up here tonight. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have at this time.
All right. Where did you add that into there? Any other additions or changes? We'll get a motion to approve.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Higdon. Second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to reports and presentations. Resolution recognizing April 18th to the 24th, 2021 as Macon County Volunteer Week. Patrick Betancourt and Jennifer Hallfield, welcome.
Thank you. And obviously Patrick is
Patrick is not here.
He sends his regrets. Are y'all good if I take the mask off?
Yeah.
Right here? Awesome. Well, good evening, and thank you for letting me talk about something I'm truly, truly passionate about at the Senior Center, and that's our amazing volunteers. First things first, they are the best. We have been truly blessed with some of the most dedicated volunteers around, and I can't brag on them enough. As I know you are all too familiar with, COVID-19 has made impacts all over Macon County, and our volunteers fell victim to that too through 2020. Yet, the approximate 50 volunteers that have remained active alongside the staff, they persevered, and they continue to serve the seniors in Macon County. We did lose probably about half of our volunteers who were afraid to continue due to COVID-19, but those who remained are to be commended for their dedication. In calendar year 2020, our volunteers donated 4,386 hours to Macon County Senior Services. To compare, in 2019, it was about 8,000 hours. So there was a huge, huge impact on volunteer hours. And according to the independent sector, those 4,000 and plus hours are worth about $119,000 to Macon County. And one question, what happened to our volunteers? Simple answer, COVID-19 happened. When our building closed, many of those volunteers were unable to come into programs like Adult Day, and then many also became concerned about their own health, and they stepped back from volunteering. And we hope it's a temporary step back. But I didn't want this to undermine the great work that had been done. Without the commitments from those volunteers, there is no way that my staff could have delivered meals, led Zoom classes, and helped seniors with open enrollment for the last year. These volunteers contribute so much in our county. When COVID-19 began, our staff and volunteers didn't miss a beat. One day we were operating as normal, and the next day we had flipped and become a drive-through meal program with no participants in the building at all, and we were providing home-delivered meals with half our volunteers. Just a couple areas that have remained strong, and I wanted to kind of share some numbers, is our SHIP, which is the State Health Insurance Information Program. I have one paid staff person and 3 volunteers in that. They counseled 400 individuals over the telephone during open enrollment from October 15th to December 7th. Those 3 volunteers contributed about 500 hours to us in 2020. And that was learning a whole new process. That was via the telephone. They were used to having people sit across from them at their desk. That was putting some volunteers working on laptops that had never worked on a laptop. So it was some great challenges, but Karen was, she persevered with them, and she got them all comfortable with using the computer and the phone, so they did some great numbers. We don't have financial savings yet, but we'll have those numbers soon on what kind of savings those programs made. Our activities volunteers provided almost 630 hours in 2020, and that was only down from about 725 hours in 2019. But the amazing part are most of those 630 hours came from 3 volunteers. They are ones who are now teaching a lot of our Zoom classes for us, along with a couple paid staff, but they are leading 16 weekly Zoom activity classes for our participants. We actually have participants from all over the country participating in those Zoom classes, so they are coming from as far away as Phoenix, Arizona to participate in our Zoom classes. Home-delivered meals. They have remained strong despite losing half our volunteers. Those volunteers and home-delivered meals contributed over 3,000 hours in 2020. And since we lost about half of those drivers, obviously my staff couldn't keep up with all of it, so fortunately, Kim Angel and her crew from Transit were gracious enough to help us deliver meals. They still help us deliver meals about every day during the week. They're delivering at least a couple routes for us so we can make sure our home delivered folks are getting meals. Just so you know, in 2020, between the volunteers and the staff, we delivered 16,714 hot meals and 4,000 frozen meals to our homebound seniors in Macon County. That's a lot more than we normally are delivering on those meals. In addition, we served in 2020, over 22,000 hot meals to our congregate participants, and that was mainly through our drive-through at the center. Just to kind of compare, in 2019, we served about 11,000 congregate meals. So we are still seeing about 100 people every single day coming through our drive-through right now. You ask a little about these volunteers. Our active volunteers right now range in age from 43 to 91. Most of our volunteers are in their 70s and 80s that help us at the center. There is not enough great things that I can say about those folks. They are just tremendous, and their commitment to meeting the needs of our community is unmatched. And my role over the Senior Center has been blessed and enhanced by having these group of volunteers. So I'm asking you tonight if you would please help us to honor their continued efforts by recognizing April 18th through 24th as Macon County Volunteer Week. And I think y'all have the resolutions in your packet. So any questions you guys have on our wonderful troop of volunteers?
I'll just add as liaison to the Senior Citizen Center. We had a Zoom call, I guess.
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago. And it is amazing to see the energy that these folks have wanting to get back to the regular routine. But more important, Mr. Chairman, is you heard about all these home delivered meals. You got to know that in a lot of cases, and Jennifer don't have those numbers, but those are the only people they see. They see that day. That's it. Is the volunteer who delivers that hot meal. And as our seniors continue, that number continues to grow. And what they do out at the senior center, even what they've had to do during COVID, it's pretty amazing. So if you want to take them, you want me to read the resolution or just make a motion to accept?
I think just make a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution recognition of Macon County Crawford senior volunteers for the period beginning April the 18th, the week of 18th through the 24th, 2021.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bill.
Second.
We got a second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
Aye.
Jennifer, we're also, I know
Awesome.
it's, for the time, it's not much, but hopefully it'll mean something to them. We're planning on giving all your volunteers
Awesome.
one of our commissioner pins.
I know Pam had mentioned that, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
All right, item 9B, update and request regarding Women's History Trail Project. Ann Hyder. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. This wasn't planned, but as one of the board members for the Department of Social Services, did she leave? Jennifer already go?
Yeah.
I would like to add my compliments to what they do and to the work that Jennifer does. I'm very honored to be able to follow that presentation. I'm here as the chair of the Folk Heritage Association of Macon County, which has primarily been known for the past 15 years for the Folk Festival. We did not hold that festival this past year, obviously, but another project that we're known for now is our Women's History Trail. Mary Polanski came in November, and we made a request for a donation to match what the town had given, and that request was for $15,000. And that is for the sculpture, which is a part of this Women's History Trail. Let me back up a minute. The Women's History Trail is the first such trail in the state of North Carolina. And we now have many stops on that trail that are marked with plaques. We've received donations to be able to purchase those plaques and mark these locations that have a story to tell about women in this area. The next phase of this project is the sculpture. This is a brief summary. I don't know if I brought enough copies of that sculpture project, which is entitled Sowing the Seeds of the Future. And we are fortunate to have the gentleman doing the work for us is in Cashers, although he has gained international recognition. He just had a commission job for Harriet Tubman, and that is now being moved around in areas of the country. I think it's in Halifax, North Carolina right now. But he not only is doing our work, but he has become a friend, and he's passionate about this work. I believe in your packet you have the request that we brought in November for the 15,000. And I'm revisiting that, but let me just add a brief story that a few years ago, a friend of mine asked me to go to lunch. Her name's Barbara McRae. And she said she was reading a book and wanted to consider having a women's trail in this area. Obviously, that has come to pass, and her next passion is for the sculpture. And we would love to see that happen, and we have great faith. We do have some other opportunities. We hope for some additional funding, but we have a payment due right now, and we're short about 19,000. But I would just like to ask if you all would please revisit that. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize and the $19,000 that's due for this contribution to be made in the memory of Barbara McRae. I think it's be very fitting to recognize Barbara in this and other ways for the hours, and not only her, but Ann too, and all these folks that put in so much time. But Barbara McRae would be the spur here, and as you know. So I would make a motion that we take the $19,000 out of contingency to make their payment whole in memory of Barbara McRae.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bill. Second by Commissioner Shields. Discussion. Sure.
I missed it. What kind of sculpture is this? Is it?
It's a 7-foot bronze sculpture. Did the sheet get to you yet, the summary sheet?
Yes, ma'am.
There's, basically, it tells the story of 3 women. One that's an African-American slave named Sally. We don't know the last name. There's a Native American, and there's a pioneer woman. And their roots go to this area. Our goal is to place it somewhere near the mound. There's just a brief synopsis in that about the stories, but I'll be glad to give you the long story. And we're fortunate that our historian, Barbara, did all the research and the history of these 3 women and the story they tell. And they're all intertwined. The reason that they were selected is because in their lives, they also were connected. And then the way the sculpture is designed is where you would, everything from how the women's hands touch, to where the foot steps out into the future, to the apple basket, which ties in with the apple tree that we just heard about. There's symbolism in the entire sculpture.
Josh, I know you haven't been here. I think this is we've taken 2 presentations prior to tonight's meeting that went into pretty significant detail about it. Including, it seems like we had a small statue here of an example at one of our meetings.
The original, it's called a maquette, which is a small model. What is being completed right now is a 3rd scale model that will be bronzed and be able to be shown. But of course, the 7-foot outdoor is what our goal is. And I'll be glad to give you lots more information.
Yeah, now, this is a 501c3.
The Folk Heritage Association is a 501c3, yes.
And that's a quandary. Did you apply to the community funding pool,
No.
Because we just upped that, then we upped that $35,000.
Yes.
Has that been allocated? Because here's a quandary. If this is a nonprofit, and we have a nonprofit community funding pool that nonprofits go through for funding. And the reason that community funding pool was set up was to avoid commissioners having to deal with every request through a nonprofit. So it's either one or the other, looks to me like, isn't it? I mean, would it be appropriate to take some of that money that we've allocated to the community funding pool and fund this?
The process set up in the community funding pool, they have their own bylaws and guidelines by which requests are submitted, and I don't know how far along they are in that process. We upped it by 37.5 mid-year, and I think we have allocated that money to them, and so now they're evaluating all the requests that they have submitted, and I think they've submitted, they have received amounts that total over the 37.5 that we put back in there. So as far as taking that money from the community funding pool pot, I think that we should leave that there, because there could be organizations that, you know, that have went through the process and submitted the allocation or submitted their request, and that's why that funding is there. But that's what, as you mentioned, that's what that community funding pool.
But there is a little difference here. The community funding pool, with their bylaws, it's very important, and Paul's right about the community funding pool. The difference, which is a small difference, you are a 501c3, but you would not have received this funding through the community funding pool, because they're more geared to direct organizations like REACH, organizations that affect individuals. That's their priority in their bylaws. So I think this project, had you even applied, would not, I don't know that, but I think that it would probably not have made the criteria, especially this year, of all years. And but I do support this project, just knowing that you know, we were there when they kicked this off that day, and so it's a powerful reminder and a powerful point of our history. So I think for this one-time gift of the county of $19,000 is well worth it. And it might be outside the boundaries of the community funding pool, and I agree with Paul. But I do think in this particular interest that we should make that investment.
Now, the town of Franklin, they abandoned their community funding pool 2 years ago. And I think they donated or made a donation of $15,000.
Okay, 15,000, yeah.
So,
And then we've generated from private donations so far. We've written some grants. We've received some. We have been turned down with some. The bank just gave us a nice donation from First Citizens.
and I'm not questioning the worthiness of this. You know, it's just a process. Either we have a community funding pool, or we abandon that and fund private individual requests. That's the quandary. And but that's my simple opinion.
I agree. I understand Paul's comments 100%. Agree with that. But also, I can't help but sit here and see Barbara sitting out there smiling at us as she always did. And I just think it's considering. I just think it's a very nice tribute to her. But I completely agree with Paul at the same time. So.
We are we're getting correspondence nationally with not only the Women's Trail, but with this project. You probably heard in the last year, there are very few sculptures that focus on women. And the first one was just put in Central Park in New York that focused on the sovereignettes, the suffragettes. That's the only women's sculpture. So the fact that we are thinking of this, we're getting a lot of people interested in coming and seeing it, for one thing, when it's finished.
Any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. Let the record reflect 4-1 vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Contingency.
Say good. All right. Moving on to old business. Grant permission for Skyrunner to place wireless internet equipment at Macon County Courthouse in order to provide LBJ Job Corps with broadband internet service. Mr. Jenkins, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. As you all know very well, the LBJ Job Corps for several years has struggled with internet connectivity, practically having none, which is a major problem for them with teaching their courses. They were also paying an exorbitant amount for very little service. So the last couple of years, 3 years ago, I believe Mr. Shields, Andy Goethel's, I guess you could call him a broadband consultant, began working on a deal that involved the Department of Labor, who actually supervises the Job Corps, or oversees the Job Corps for the federal government. And Skyrunner Internet, which is an internet provider out of Asheville. Finally got permission from the Department of Labor to negotiate with Skyrunner. First phase of the project was, of course, to identify how do we get broadband to the Job Corps. The first go-around was, there was a proposal to shoot it from the Emergency Services Building to Wine Spring Ball down to the Job Corps. Well, that did not work because you couldn't get a direct shot from Wine Springs Ball to the Job Corps. Second solution was to shoot it to I found this pretty humorous, the bathrooms at Waya Ball that would have that they would place radio equipment on and then shoot directly at Job Corps. They had a sight line, but of course, the Forest Service was not going to go for that. So after some diligent work on the behalf of Skyrunner and also several other individuals, the solution has been worked out to do a backhaul into the courthouse, place minimal radio equipment on the 5th floor of the courthouse, shoot 2 relays to private property out on adjacent, pretty close to Georgia Road, then shoot another relay to a private property on Wire Road, then a direct shot to the Job Corps. This will enable the Job Corps to have up to 1 gig of broadband service. Good thing is it doesn't cost the county anything except a little space to put the radio equipment on the 5th floor. So to move that along, we, excuse me, we need a letter, I guess, granting permission to place that radio equipment to Skyrunner. And so that's why I'm here tonight. And I'd just like to mention also, this whole project wouldn't have been possible if Mr. Shields hadn't bird dogged, that he stayed on top of this for, I guess, the last 3 years.
Good people around you make you look good. You're one of them.
Well, so this is a worthy project. As you know, Job Corps is an institution in Macon County and is a great asset to our community. This is no cost, just a little space. And another possibility out of this is that the Skyrunner will be able to look into some internet, providing internet within the community too. So.
Mr. Jim, go ahead.
No, it's yours, go. No,
I was just gonna ask if it needs a motion, so go ahead.
No, you're the broadband guy. I just had a question. We'll wait till after the motion. Go.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue with this project and allow the tower to be placed on the courthouse as needed.
Right, yeah. It would not be a tower. It would just be some radios in there. I guess that big or so. Okay.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Shields, second by Commissioner Young. Discussion.
Between here and the Job Corps, with this, can you enhance existing broadband service for anybody between those 2 points?
Yeah, Skyrunner actually has a 2-phase project on this. Number 1, of course, is to hook up the Job Corps because that was their original contract with DOL. Number 2, that enables them to look at providing community broadband, wireless broadband. And their site on the Georgia Road in particularly, which is on Beacon Mountain Trail, which is actually a White Horizon, but it's on that ridge between the Georgia Road and White, up in there. That will hit a whole lot of people. Plus, if you shoot that other direct relay to Waya Road, which is on Timber Creek subdivision, you're familiar with that, up towards the top of that'll also have some opportunity there. So it's a win-win situation. Job Corps gets what they need. The community gets you know, just details have to work out with the possibility of expanded broadband to the
You
community.
got a time frame, Tom, when they might
They are supposed to have, they have a firm operational commitment for the backhoe April 15th. So I assume, they've already tested, they've already shot the sites and everything, so they're on a fast track after 3 years.
One thing you have to remember about the Job Corps, to us, when we started working this, they're an educational center. And the reception and things they were receiving at that center was about nil. And a lot of times when the students would come in, they had more access to broadband service than we could provide for them. And it was hard for the teachers too, and the students to go through the process of the learning with a computer. And so, this allows, it allows LBJ to move into the 21st century. And those young people up there, they'd been in the 21st century at home, but it allowed them to be a part of this, moving forward.
And they've been gone. They just came back.
A year, yeah.
2 weeks ago. Started trickling them. They didn't fill it up. They're just bringing in a few at a time, so.
I have a question and a comment, or a suggestion. Would it be wise of us to have Warren and maybe Andy look into it, just to make sure that we're not.
They already have, I should have mentioned that.
Good, okay. Question, are we opening up a precedent to, and maybe it's a good precedent, if we can finally get some broadband, are we opening up a precedent to just allow people to put towers on?
Well, first of all, it's not a tower, so
Whatever it might be.
but DNet already has a bit of a presence up on the building also, so
I didn't know
that
that.
precedent has already been set.
Okay, good enough.
Let's gotta come home there if we can.
That's what I say, maybe it's a good precedent. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you. One other thing about the Balsam West agreement, that just has some tweaks we need to do, and it'll be, hopefully be on the agenda in April, so too much to give.
Thank you.
Jenkins, thank you for what you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, moving on to new business, request from Cowboy School Arts and Heritage Center. Mr. Gaffey, welcome.
And Mr. McCullough.
Oh, hey, Bob, you got your mask on.
I do. Come on up, Bobby. Bobby. Come on up.
Thank y'all for,
I'll back him up.
I appreciate y'all considering the request. We had a couple from the community down in Cowee who have put up a $10,000 match. And if we can raise another $10,000 through an allocation from the county, we can repair the basketball court down at the school. Part of our commitment years ago in 2010, I think when we started talking about this process, was to keep the recreation field and the facilities open down at Cowee School, because it's always been a center for the community, and it's really the only public recreation facility in that part of the county. And this last year, we've seen a record number of people using the playground, the open field, the ball field, and the walking track, and a record number of kids trying to use the basketball court. They parked some of the mobile units back when the school was still open on that basketball court, and there's some nice-sized craters and holes down there. I went down and talked to a kid a couple of months ago who was playing down there, and I apologized to him. You know, they'll try to dribble, and if they hit one of the craters, it's out in the field. And he told me, he said, well, that's no problem. If I can play down here, I can play anywhere. But that's been a goal of ours for some time, and this couple, in their generosities, agreed to match $10,000. And our preliminary estimates would be a cost between $15,000 and $18,000 to redo the court, and with the remaining funds, we'd need to install some sort of barrier to keep traffic off of the court, as it's adjacent to our lower parking lot.
Good. Thank you. I think anytime we can get a
Get a
50%
match.
on our money, that's a good investment for the county.
Have you got a schedule
When you want to do it, Stacy?
I'd like to start getting bids on it as soon as we get the money in hand. I'd really like to have it done by
You plan on
summertime.
repaving the whole, what was you plan on doing there? Just repairing it, or?
So to repair it and then cover it, ideally, depending on the material cost, we could do asphalt, or we could do a composite like they have down here at the town. And ideally, that's what we'd rather do, is the composite material, because it tends to last a whole lot longer and weather better.
Good.
Good.
Motion, question?
I certainly will make a motion that we match the very generous contribution to provide recreation on that end of the county, because you're right, that's all they are, and it is well used. So I think that's a good investment, Mr. Chairman, and recommend that it also be taken out of contingency.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bill.
I do have a question.
Sure.
How can we,
So we get a second, sorry. Yeah, sorry. We got a second by Commissioner Shields. Question.
how can we actively, bring in more youth? I think so many people drive by that school and they don't even know, people who have just moved in here, they don't really know the historical purposes behind the school, nor the less do they realize they can pull over and use it. Like, I'm okay to spend the money, but I don't want it to sit there and rot. I want I want to drive by. I hate to say this, but in the past 10 years, I don't think I've ever seen anybody playing out there. It's probably because the field's so bad. But I want to find a way that if we spend the money, that, like I want to see kids playing on the court. I want to see kids playing outside and playing in the dirt, and like we used to do. You know what I mean? Get them off these tablets. But I just want to find a way to let people know that, hey, come on, come play. This is a park. I want to make sure that if we spend the money that, we can draw more youth. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, Josh, rolling with your thought there, and I don't disagree with you at all, is I think they've got a pretty tremendous outreach that they would be happy to blast it out that they're getting ready to renovate.
Yeah. And one of the nice things about the recreation out front too is that we don't, how organizations work in Macon County, a lot of them, you have older volunteers and older users, and it's no different out at the school. But what's good for us is having those recreation facilities. That's what draws families down to the school. So we work really hard to maintain the facilities inside and out on the field. But that court's been an issue now for a few years.
Thank you. Question?
I know y'all have taken hits, Stacy, during the COVID thing, as have so many other venues and businesses. Now, you are 501c3.
We are.
And last year's allocation or funding to the center was what, third?
It was, I think we ended up around 38, 40, somewhere around there.
Is there a deadline? And you know where I'm going with this. It's the same thing with Ann. I'm trying not to rule by emotion, but what's the deadline on the matching funds?
They're ready to send the check.
Did they say, hey, you gotta do this? We've got a budget, we're entering a budget cycle. We got April, May, June, we got 3 months to wrap up the budget. So my opinion is let's work this through the budget with your other funding. So that's where I think it's a great idea. I played basketball in it, as a kid. I hate to see a child deprived of any opportunity, but there's a process for funding.
The difference is we own the property. Macon County owns that.
Yeah, and I'd say our timing right now is just to try to have that done by the summertime.
No, opposed to that, it's just a matter of the funding process.
But we own that property. That's the difference where we wouldn't qualify for the funding pool at all.
Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. You want to speak too? Come on.
I'm letting him ask for the money. Good evening. It's been a while since I've been here, but I'm glad to be back. Mr. Young, I don't believe you were on the board last time I was here. Welcome. Welcome to the board here. I want to acknowledge the assistance that y'all have given us at the school, and they're, 8 years old now? And we've been a 501c3 5.5 of those years, I believe. And all of the success that we have had down there has been made possible by the continued support of the county. And this is fortuitous that the conversation earlier about funding, Paul, and your question there, your continued support is important to all nonprofits, and here's why. Every year probably you'll see a request from the school or from the Quasi Initiative, I'll get to that in a minute, for a baseline amount of money that may not be earmarked for anything in particular. And the reason for that is, and it's worked for us at the school, it shows a continuity of support and confidence in what that organization is doing. And we have taken that amount of money that y'all have put into that school and turned around, and that has enabled us to get thousands and thousands of dollars in grant money, because they understand that we're not going to fold up and go away tomorrow, that money that they give us is going to be put to good use in our programs down there. So that's why you will see some of those funding requests. And it does need to come directly from the governmental body to show that level of support, and gives us credibility over time. Every year, a few more doors are opened, a few more opportunities are available to us because of that continuity. And so that partnership with the county has led us to partnerships with state, federal, and private funders. And that money that you give is leveraged over and over. So I come here tonight mainly to do a goodbye and a hello in the same thing. Last week, we lost a person very important in our community. Barbara McCrae served as the co-chair of the Niquosi Initiative, along with Juanita Wilson, that represents the Eastern Band of the Cherokee. I also serve on that board, as well as chairing the board down at the school. And the other board members have elected me to attempt to fill the vacancy left on the Niquosi Initiative with the passing of Barbara. And I think it's only right that I step down from the chairmanship on the school board, and I'll do that at the next regular board meeting down there. So you may hear from me on behalf of the school again, or the new chair, or Mr. Guffey, and you'll probably see me in here with Ms. Eisenbraun in the future discussing the Niquosi Initiative. We have some great things coming up right around the corner with the Niquosi Initiative and with the school. And I look forward to being involved and working with this commission on those projects. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Bob.
Boy, what a testament we've had to volunteerism in Macon County tonight. So thank you for your efforts, Bob. All right, Sutton Broadcasting Lease Agreement Amendment, Sean Gibson.
As Mr. Gibson's coming up, Mr. Chairman, I'll just give the board a brief kind of rundown here. If you'll recall, back in July of 2015, we approved a sublease agreement with Sutton Broadcasting at the Cowboy Ball Tower site. Sutton Broadcasting is now requesting to amend that agreement to add a second sublessee, which Sean is here and can talk about. This has been approved by the FCC, the United States Forest Service. It will require no change or addition of equipment. It will not impact our emergency management. I checked with Warren. Everything's good there. They're not putting anything else up there, not adding anything new. Macon County's current lease at this time is set to expire with the Forest Service on 12/31 of 21, and we have submitted at this time the paperwork to the Forest Service for a lease extension. So with that being said, Sean, if you'll come up, and the amendment has been included in your agenda packet. This was reviewed formally. We had these discussions with our former legal counsel, Mr. Chester Jones, and he advised to, in order for this amendment to be able to take place, we needed to get clearance from the FCC, the United States Forest Service, and both those items have been received. And this will actually increase the annual amount we receive in rent off this site, as we'll now be adding an additional sublessee. So Sean, with that being said, appreciate you coming here tonight, and just kind of, you can fill in the gaps if you want to and answer any questions.
Mr. Manager, they've been paying their rent?
Yes, sir.
How long does this currently last, this current?
It will be,
Is it indefinite, is it?
no, our lease it'll have to be renewed on December 31st of '21, because that's when the parent lease will expire with the Forest Service.
So their lease will,
Yes, we'll have to renegotiate everything.
theirs at that time?
Our
That was
lease,
asking. So
yes.
we're not negotiating terms or anything else at this point?
Right.
Just the amendment on the.
We get more money.
Yeah, basic, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been, what, 6 years, I guess? This microphone's a little smaller than one I use for tell it and sell it. But anyway, well, yeah, basically what's happening, Mr. Chairman, is the county, and this amendment would be non-retroactive. You would be getting, right now, I think we're paying $500 a month for the 3 channels to lease the top part of that tower. As County Manager Derek said, nothing changes physically up there. Basically, we would be adding Blue Ridge Broadcasting, which is a subsidiary of Billy Graham out of Charlotte. They would be paying the county directly an additional $250. So we're paying $500, they're paying another $250 directly to the county, non-retroactive. So you've got 3 channels right now, $500 a month. It would be 3 channels and $750 per month to the county.
All right, Sean, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Who are we broadcasting? What games, what schools are we broadcasting this year?
Well, I personally am calling the Franklin games on WFSE, and then 104.1 is handling some of the Cherokee games.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's,
Hopefully
I'm the commission, I'm the chairman here, and I live in Highlands, so I can tell you it frustrates me, because I can only get 104.1, and when I flip on the radio, I'm listening to Cherokee football. I understand it's a business, but we're the ones that control that, so.
Yeah.
I would love to hear our Panther football on the local channels, but I think we had a discussion about this when we had first approved this lease. I was just looking, I guess it was 15.
15,
I remember
yeah.
it well, because
Yeah.
that was a question that came up about the
Mhm.
opportunity
Mhm.
that it provides to y'all of opening up y'all's business tremendously into that part of the western North Carolina. But we'll discuss this as we get into the end of the year and renegotiate those terms.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't have any problem with this, so just a Panthers fan.
Well, hopefully we'll do better this week, so it was a rough night, Friday night, gentlemen, rough night. Too many backs they had.
I understand.
Got to stop the run, so anyway. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve the request as granted to enhance the payment from $500 to $750.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Good seeing y'all. Nice to meet you, Josh. I think we may have met one time before.
Nice to meet you.
I think you dealt with my sales guy, Courthouse.
voice.
Yeah. Yes, that's me every other day.
Thank you, Sean.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, Planning, Permitting, and Development, Director Jack Morgan. Number 1, installation of well and upgrade to water feature at Wesley's Park.
Jack, some of those people stayed just to hear you now.
I hope they're not disappointed.
They won't be.
You guys, you need to have your conversation come into this. Jack, water feature, negotiate that. That's right, that's right.
That is aggravating. I'd like to clarify that.
I got 2.
I hope all of y'all are familiar with the water feature at Wesley Park. It's very nice.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Very nice thing for the kids to go down there and cool off in the summertime. And it don't cost them anything, so it helps a lot of parents who homeschooling and stuck at home to have a place to go. But what we have there with the water feature, we have a town water supply. We have 7 heads that are controlled by solenoids that randomly, you can control how the randomness of the water squirts up at different places like that for the kids to play in. We usually turn them on in May and off in September, of course, depending on the outside temperature, time to turn it off. And we do have 2 water surfaces there, 2 meters. We have one that goes to the pavilion and picnic shelter, and one that goes to the water feature. That way we don't have to pay sewer, of course, for the water usage. Our maintenance director, Mike Cope, brought to my attention the water bills of the feature, which are on the first page of your handout there.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, that's why we're here. For those months, $28,218.49 of water is what we bought. I would like to propose that we consider furnishing our own water. Mr. Cope met with me and Kyle Jennings of the Health Department about a permit. It's not an issue. There's a copy of that in your packet. We can get a well permit for that. And we can do this and that location have our own well and supply. But also, of course, it wasn't open last year due to COVID. But at the end of 19, the solenoids were bad. They would need to be replaced. Seth Adams got a quote on that, and it's included in there too, of $6,066, I think is the amount. But that's got to be done anyway. But what do we need to do to be able to disconnect from the town's water supply? Need to drill a well. We have the permit. Once we determine the yield, we can design an adequate supply system for the feature. We got to know how much water we got to get before we can design that, because if all those heads were to run continuously, which they don't, but they put out a lot of water, they would use 81 gallons a minute. So we've got to treat that water with a ultraviolet light system before it goes on the kids. We've got to have, if we don't have enough yield, we've got to put some sort of reservoir in, so this all costs money. But what I would propose is that we do that, and the approximate cost for that would be, if we had a 300-foot well, it'd run about $6,815, considering it's 300 foot. If it's less, it would be less. If it's more, it would be more. The engineering services to design the system would be $4,200, and the estimate for the equipment would be $35,000, which is $6,000 of we're going to spend anyway to make this thing work. So estimating the project cost of approximately $56,000, and that would put us out of buying water, this water feature. We can pay for it in what, 3 years? Something like that?
Minus the maintenance.
Yeah.
Has anybody approached the town about helping us with this? And
I think Mr. Cope talked to him about that.
have you talked to him, Derek?
Yeah.
Since I read this agenda, besides the radio tower and the football games, that was one of my soapboxes. This one, it absolutely irks me to no extent that the town of Franklin, here's a park in the middle of their town, and they're charging us full price on water for the public good. It blows my mind. So I'm 100% in favor of doing this well.
Well,
Moving on.
Have we talked to any of them about this particular?
Not this particular, but when we, like on the, I mean, have you had any conversations with them?
yeah, they've not given me much to go on. Well, for instance, with the Greenway project, I had to pay a $51 permit fee for the town to make the connector, so they're not giving me a break. Maybe somebody else, but not me.
I understand there's some auditing there that needs to happen so they keep up with it, which they can still do, but they don't necessarily have to pay us. But again,
Yeah. But anyway, I can't do anything
you can't make it up.
without your permission to do this or authorization.
We still have time, but is there a way to go to public session and just bring this up to the town and just, you know, I mean, I don't wanna, if there's a way they're willing to work with us.
I'm sure that'd be the way to do it if that.
Am I wrong? I'm just asking.
I'll be happy to call down there and see if that's.
Well, you need to go down there.
I just
Don't
feel
call
like
them. Go see them.
I feel like if they saw that, I mean, it's their tax
Yeah.
dollars, surely they just, you know, come up with a flat rate or something like that.
Just like Jim said, it's right in the middle of town. I just,
But I agree, I mean, if not, we need to do our own work.
the only thing about doing our own water source, that's the baby you have to take care of for the whole time.
Yeah.
Would it be wise to, let's ask Derek to do that, and if he's unsuccessful, go ahead and give you all the approval to move forward? Does that work?
If it's unsuccessful, let's do it.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they say.
They need to contribute.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a
Yeah.
resolution exempting the
Engineering
engineering services, so why don't, we'll do that, report back in April, at that time, if discussions with the
Do we
town.
have a schedule the next town board meeting? Maybe we should show up. When is that?
When they meet.
First
I don't
First
know.
Monday of the month?
I don't know.
So me and you'll be there, Derek? Yes, we will.
I'll be wherever y'all tell me to be.
Okay.
So we'll just go talk to them.
All right, well,
That's the easiest way.
if you decide to go that route, we're ready to go.
Good.
That's all we need.
We'll have that resolution ready in April if we need it.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Did you, Jim?
Yeah, well, no, I didn't know that, but I have from past knowledge knew that they were charging us for that. But the ones that aggravate me, and Derek and I discussed this earlier today, was some of the power we're still paying at some of the lift stations. They're collecting the revenues, and, yeah, exactly.
So you say River Bend?
Derek, he's on top of it. He is on top of it.
So we got an appointment there, baby.
Okay. So what was the
Put us on
direction
the
again,
agenda.
to wait to hear from this meeting?
We'll take it up in
Yeah, we'll wait
April.
here, and we'll have that.
Item 2, award of construction bid regarding Greenway Connector.
Yes. Actually, we don't need to formally do that, but what I need to talk to you about is the cost. When we sat down with Brian Burtz and Andy Russell of the DOT, and we went over what they would expect us to do for that Greenway Connector, we estimated the cost of $70,000, and y'all approved that, of which the state DOT is going to pay $49,000 of. But the actual cost came in more than that, by a sum of $12,402 above that. We have $6,000 in engineering fees, $2,500 in survey fees, $51.25 for town permit, and the low bid for the construction itself was $73,850 by Penland Contracting. So the state, it will stop at $49,000. They say anything above $70,000 is ours, and the total tab is going to be $82,402. And I hate to ask for more money to pay for this, but we've come this far and we've about got it.
Thank you, Mayor. That doesn't surprise me. It's been a while. We've been working on this. The
Yeah,
prices have
it's,
gone up, so it's not.
yeah, COVID slowed us down tremendously, getting design and getting approvals. It's been over a year working on this, just the approval of it.
Ready to see it done.
But anyway, this will take it from the pavement there at Wesley's Park, under both bridges, up through the Frogs parking lot and to the end of the town bridge.
So we need action to approve this bid. We need a motion to approve.
Don't need a
Sorry.
motion, just need a motion to approve a budget amendment for $12,402
Okay.
from contingency or fund balance.
That's-
Your
we've done a
contingency
good
sitting
number
at,
on it today.
it's sitting at 46,000 right now after the two,
The contingency still at 46?
Yeah.
after the 29,000 you've already
We
taken tonight,
have
but we're at
April,
75.
May.
That'll be fine. I think it'll
We
be
got 3
fine.
months to go.
Fine, it'll be fine to take.
All right. We get a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve
Motion by Commissioner Shields.
12,402 out of contingency.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bill. Any questions, comments?
Missed this part too.
This one's been working for some time, Josh.
Put as much money into it.
Yeah, it's been about 3 years total to get to here.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Did they give, since Brian's now the head of it,
He is.
maybe we can get it moved up on the schedule?
We're ready.
But maybe they can get it moved up.
We're doing the work.
I
We're
know we're
paying.
gonna do the work, but they gotta be involved with the money, with the
Well,
check.
yeah, but they've had the money. We signed that agreement a
It's
year
a
ago,
reimbursement
January.
basis. We have to spend the
You have to
money.
spend it and then get it
then
back.
get
Yeah,
reimbursed, yeah.
that's what we have to do.
Old school.
Yeah. That was the plan. But we'll start as soon as we get a contract with Penland.
Any questions from the Frogs people back there? You're dealing with it all the time. What are we dealing with?
I have one, are there actual plans for this, what it looks like, or how
Yep.
it's gonna work?
Oh, yeah.
You have them in your office?
I do.
Okay, I might stop by and see you.
How about I just bring you set 5 for you?
That would be perfect, we love that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackson.
Jack.
Chris, sorry. Anybody need a breather or want to keep trucking? Everybody good?
I gotta go just for a second. It won't take long.
We'll get started.
3
We'll wait
minutes.
on
3 minutes.
Anybody else? Take off. We'll get started. You're
Go
fine.
ahead and go.
All right, Chris. Solid Waste, resolution exempting engineering services for Carson Center project and approval of proposal from McGill Associates. Welcome. Hey, good job at Scaly, by the way, flaps.
Oh, good.
That looks really good. I just want to make sure, and I know we've talked about it before, but just a public reminder, we need to use that money that their community
Yes.
organization gave to us for a little bit of landscaping. No, I can't do it. But I'll help you pick shrubs and place them.
Yeah, and I apologize. We ran into some, of course, the Nantahala Center was sort of finishing up as we were, was kicking off, and anyway, we ran into some issues in Nantahala, and so I haven't gotten back to Scaly, but you will be getting a call from me, and yes, we do intend to do some.
We've had a lot of compliments, Chris, we really have, so thank you for that. Yeah.
Good. And we've heard good things about the centers. I'm not sure how long it's going to take us to train our staff that if you push a stop button and hit start again without pulling that button back out, and then we make a trip to Scaly and or Nantahala to pull that button out, it's not that efficient, but otherwise, it's great. Now, last Wednesday, I had to go to Nantahala and pull the button out, and today Sean had to go to Scaly to pull the button
Scaly.
out. So. But we're working on it.
Yeah, don't call me for that.
Okay. So I think if I read the agenda correctly, we're talking about the Carson.
Yeah. Carson Center and the McGill.
Okay, so I've got to screw up on the header of this one, but this is the McGill one. So attached in your agenda, you will see just a proposed general services agreement with McGill Associates for a few various tasks, but the main one involving development of a new center at the old Cartega J School property to replace the Carson Center. Basically, what this amounts to is sort of the due diligence. Since we were gifted this property instead of buying it, we didn't really do the due diligence. So I've asked McGill for a proposal just to help us with DOT ingress and egress issues, try to avoid any more water and sewer issues. We are trying to provide bathroom facilities and running water at the centers for our attendants, and hopefully deal with any floodway issues, and hopefully avoid any SHPO or TIPO issues. And so that's the crux of what I've asked them for in this service agreement. There's a couple other items in there, some GPS work and some stormwater updates. That's a couple hours here and there, just stuff that doesn't really warrant a $500 or $800 contract. So just kind of put that in this general services agreement to get it all covered. What I'm asking for tonight is the board to approve the attached resolution exempting this project from the provisions of Article 3D, subchapter 143 of general statutes, and authorize Derek to execute the contract with McGill Associates so that we can begin the due diligence process at the Carson Center, future Carson Center. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Who owns the property at Carson Center now?
We do.
And the plans for that
Don't have any at present.
don't work, I mean.
It's pretty small footprint. There's not, it's surrounded by, frankly, it's wetlands that have been modified. I don't want to say too much from Jai, but we didn't do it, so.
Motion to to approve your request.
Got a motion by Commissioner Higdon. Second by Commissioner Shields. Comments? Just looking at the fee schedule, they charge almost as much as the tree services.
Not hard.
That's a lot.
Not true.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, resolution exempting geotechnical services for recycling processing center and approval of proposal from Bunnell Lamons.
Bunnell Lamons,
Bunnell
yes.
Lamons Engineering.
Yes. There's a little
Sorry.
awful sketch attached in the contract. Once again, gentlemen, I'm asking for a resolution to exempt, going through the normal RFQ procedures. If you will remember, we have discussed for a couple years replacing the back portion of this building, which is both, well, the big thing is we want to orient the building with the new section, have full span clearance so that we don't have equipment and trucks hitting the support beams, which is what kind of got us into this mess to start with. So we have better secured the damage post, so the building's not continuing to sink. It's stable. But we still do want to make these improvements to the building, and also expand the roof coverage over the back part of the dock that's there now. It would give us three more spots to park and stage trailers for moving commodities in and out of the weather. We have to store a lot of commodities out right now, and I don't know if you know it, but we're not supposed to look like a landfill, so having the stuff stashed everywhere is not the best. But as I was contemplating getting into this project, it occurred to me, some of you may know, that original that entire structure was built on two old hog lagoons that were backfilled with castings from the mica plant. So what I don't want to do is get into a project where we think we're going to put up a couple $100,000 building and wind up needing $400,000 or $500,000 worth of earthwork to put a foundation under that building. And so I've asked BLE for this proposal to do some borings to give us the information about what's underneath that building, what it can support, or what we might have to do as far as sizing of footers, or in essence, if it makes the project just cost prohibitive, do we need to look at perhaps moving this building somewhere else instead of expanding it on where it sits now? And so that proposal is enclosed, and we'd be looking again for resolution exempting and county manager authorization to approve this contract.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Higdon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Young. All in favor? Aye. Thank
That
you.
was easy. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Good to see you, Paul.
Good to see you.
Item
Chris.
11E, lease of Macon Middle School with Macon County Board of Education. Lori, is this you?
Yes, sir. So, as part of the Macon Middle School renovations, the school board will deed the property to the county, but of course, they need to still have continued use of the school, so this is just a formality to lease the school back to the Board of Education. The Board of Education approved it at their February meeting, so we just need county commissioners to approve the lease as well.
Motion to approve the lease, Mr. Chairman.
A motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Aye. Item E1, authorize county manager to enter a contract with New Atlantic Construction. Just need a motion on this, Mr. Manager.
Motion second, yes.
Motion to authorize the county manager to proceed with the contract.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Opposed? So, gotcha, Josh. Item 11G, or 11F has been removed. 11G, lease agreements with Southwestern Community College regarding former National Guard Armory facility and adjoining property. Mr. Rowland.
Yes, and glad to have Dr. Thomas and Mr. Brothers here with us tonight
Welcome,
from
guys.
SEC. The leases that are included in your agenda packet, we have since negotiated. The ones that I actually have passed out in hard copy are the leases that we'll be discussing here tonight. And just briefly, we started out, and we'd like to thank Dr. Thomas and Mr. Shatley, Dean Shatley, their attorney. They've worked diligently with Ms. Carpenter and myself to come here and get this deal done. And I know we're anxious to see as SEC as this project move forward. Just some high points. One of the things that we did, we separated, as you'll see there on that survey that is attached, separated the tracks into two portions, Tract A and Tract B. Tract A is the property that the Armory is located on, and Tract B is the property, the back parking lot behind it. And the reason that we decided to do this was because Tract B is what's going to deal with the burn building itself. The burn building will be placed on Tract B, and as such, that is the tract that the bond money is going to deal with. So our responsibility and the county's responsibility as far as satisfying the NC Connect bond match will all pertain to Tract B, whereas the lease agreement for the Armory and the renovations that are going to take place at the Armory is something that is directly between us and SEC. So in separating this, we'll be able to keep that bond-funded project and what's going on there separate and apart from the renovations that are taking place at the Armory. One of the major things here is, go ahead, I'm sorry.
This lease has nothing to do with the burn building.
This lease does. The first one. It says here, the one where,
I don't see no prices.
well, the burn building, that is one of the things that this lease is going to do. This lease gives for Tract B, which is where the burn building will be placed. Again, Tract B is the tract that the bond money pertains to. This gives Dr. Thomas what he needs to go to the state office and hand them the lease and get the project started with the burn building. And at that time,
What was that called? There was a number.
the 3-1.
3-1.
At that time, we'll be able to, when he gets to go to the state and get his architect started, they'll be able to bring us a revised 3-1, which is contemplated in this lease for Tract B, which will allow us to establish a firm project cost and know what the county's contribution as far as the match required on the burn building is going to be. So with the approval of that lease for Tract B, that's going to happen. With Tract A, we have discussed renovations. Jack had brought a list before the board. Dr. Thomas was up here. We discussed those as well as renovations identified by SEC during that process. That lease is going to be, again, between us and SEC and pertain to Tract A, which is the renovations we're making to the Armory. Again, the state, the community college office would not count the renovations that we were making to the Armory or the lease toward the bond match. So that's why, again, I felt it was so important to separate out this parcel of property, to know we have one lease that covers our responsibilities to the North Carolina Community College System and what we're required to do under the bond to allow SEC to receive the $1.4 million in funding, and then this is between us and SEC with no state office of community college in the middle. So that makes it a cleaner process. It allows us to know our obligations to fulfill the bond requirement, which is burn building placement, and then this lease agreement on Tract A will enable us to discuss and negotiate and finalize terms with SEC separate and apart from the North Carolina Community College System. So with that being said, one notable change I do want to make known is the board had originally established a 25-year term for the lease. We received word back from the State Office of Community College that a long-term lease for them is 40 years. So that change, it has been made from 25 to 40 in both of these agreements that are before you tonight for Track A and Track B, simply to come into line with what the State Office of Community Colleges, and am I calling that, is that the right, what they consider a long-term lease and what we're actually doing with SEC. So that brings that all into line. And Dr. Thomas, more than happy to, if you want to add anything or.
No, you explained it perfectly as far as our discussions and conversations with the 3-1, and then with the new communication from the state identifying that as well.
And I think you'll be presenting these to your board on the 23rd?
23rd, 2 weeks from this evening.
You good? You good with this?
We've massaged this back and forth, and I think as long as the communication for what Mr. Morgan has identified as some of the renovation aspects there, we have created a list, Derek, along with Mr. Morgan and a couple other items, and as long as we can make that work, I think it would be good to go. Yeah.
So you vote on these separate?
Still takes board approval on our behalf. I can't speak for them.
But you're going to, this is something you can present to them with
Yeah.
some level of
When
confidence.
did this idea arise about
The
splitting
attorney, yeah.
the lot?
Me.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the lease agreement as presented.
Both lease agreements, I presume?
I'm sorry, both lease agreements.
There you go. Okay, just clarifying, sorry. We have a motion by Commissioner Young,
Second.
second by Commissioner Higdon. Questions, comments?
I have to comment, Mr. Chairman, I didn't know that we had, I read this and I had never saw the map on it till we saw it, but I still think this is not a slam to SEC, but this is probably the worst financial move that this board has made since I've been on here. I mean, you're looking at we're right at $4 million the Macon County taxpayers investing. It was a gift to the Macon County taxpayers, the building was at 2.7 right there.
The appraised value,
Yeah,
I think it was 2.9.
2.9, we're gonna put another 1.3 in it at least. So we're talking, you might as well say where we're at it, for $4 million, and this was the only building we had available for any kind of economic development, so, and that's not saying that the program's not important, it's not good, but, I just think it's poor management of the Macon County taxpayer dollars to invest $4 million, and that's what you're doing for 40 years, you're giving the building away for 40 years.
Duly noted.
So, but in lieu of that, you know, I certainly want to support the burn building. So if you can't split them, I'm in. I got to vote for the burn building.
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, signify by
Wait a
saying.
minute, Ms. Shulman might have a comment.
Sorry.
I just, in the B part, I'm for the burn building too. I believe I worked on that 5 or 6 years prior to going into lease agreement kind of thing. So I'm definitely in with the burn building. I have some reservations about the National Guard Armory, but as Mr. Bill said, if these is brothers and sisters together, I'm in.
I mean, we're about to put $10.5 million into a middle school with black mold. $4 million for
It'll last
college.
22 years and serve a lot of kids.
So-
This will
so-
serve how many people from Macon County, 12% go there?
So this will last 40 years, 45 years, and I think that's
We
a good
don't know that.
investment.
We don't know that.
All right.
You have no clue.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Approval of architectural services contract for proposed Macon Transit Facility expansion. Kim, you up, Miss Angel? You want Derek?
Kim, thank you for staying with us.
Yeah, actually, Gary, you should say, I'm glad I volunteered you to show up tonight.
I wasn't thinking quick enough, or I'd have put you in front of Chris.
Yeah, exactly. I started to say something, but I didn't. You know, I want to go on record that I did not say anything this time. Last month, we were here and had asked for a resolution for an exemption for the A&E services on the facility expansion. On February the 25th, I received an email from NCDOT that said this request for exemption was grandfathered in and meets the requirements under North Carolina general statutes. You are free to move forward under that exemption. As of today, we received a formal letter from NCDOT congratulating us on the project, even though it goes back to fiscal year 2019. And that we do have pre-award authority, so we can go ahead and incur costs, and they should be covered. They should be covered under the grant at that point in time. But in addition, the email that I got said that we would be meeting with NCDOT to further discuss the A&E services, which I'm a little different. The other projects are all new builds, and mine is a facility expansion. So I think what we need to do, I believe, in your package was a contract from Mr. Ritter, which do qualify under that exemption. And I know I printed
Is
that
this fee
somewhere.
in there? I'm not seeing it.
It's in, there we go. Hang on.
It's 19,
I just showed Jimmy a page.
19.
There's 3 pages.
It's on the third page, Lori, under compensation for basic services.
It's where?
There's only 3 pages in here, and there's no compensation section.
That's
don't
pretty
have it.
important.
Yeah.
You got your,
I do.
you got your last page?
Well, it's actually on, I don't know what page you don't have. What page is not in? It's on this page. Compensation for basic services.
It's $19,000.
Mine goes, I've got a page.
Yeah, there's a page got left
There's a
out.
missing page,
Agenda
yeah.
package.
And I mean,
I say, I've got cover page, and I go to miscellaneous, and then it jumps to the
You want to
end.
see it?
I just want to make sure it's in
I
there.
happened to print it out, so it is for $19,000.
Yeah, this page is not in our packet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That makes good sense.
I didn't do that. And of course, Mr. Morgan will be helping guide through this project because, of course, once we do this, part of the caveat is there's 80% federal money. There's 20% local money, which is already in the current budget that we have right now. But obviously, we have to follow the federal public transportation law described in FTA third-party contracting guidance. And so we'll be following local, state, and federal requirements for the expansion of the
Would
facility.
would Mr. Ritter's portion be already in would that count towards the?
It is actually more than covered in the project, so hopefully, the conversation
gonna
earlier
be it?
went to cost, and obviously this was projected several years back, so there may be more cost involved when we actually start construction. So hopefully we'll have money to move into where we need. Yes.
When you gonna put that to bid?
We will be meeting with DOT. The plans have to be drawn and submitted to NCDOT and approved by them before we can put it out to bid. So, then.
Mr. Ritter has his part already done, and he's just waiting the okay to turn in Chris Henner's lease on the structural part of it, and his mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer to do the other part. And once that's done, the plan will be ready.
Right. And we will be submitting those to them as soon as he finishes up with that. And I'm assuming we'll have a conversation. I think that email said next week. The email came this morning, so. So we should be meeting with them, and it will go, and, you know, I would love to see something good happen in 2021. 2020 was a hard year for transit. So
But you done a good job.
we are slowly but surely recovering.
Thank you for delivering the meals, Kim, that's so important.
We have been happy. It's something that we consider ourselves as we are all sister agencies, and When Jennifer reached out, we were able to provide then, and we actually had to get a little creative recently in order to keep providing the same level of service that we were doing, so.
That addition
we did
probably
that.
won't live up to the standards of the building that you have now, would you think?
Well, it's gonna be hard to, but we'll have to have another plaque and all that good stuff, so. And I'd like to I'll have 28 years in this June, so.
How old is that building now?
We moved in 2003.
Three?
Yep. That was one of those buildings that was supposed to last a long time, but because of the incredible snowballing growth of transit in this county, we outgrew it. We outgrew it within 10 years. So we've been operating.
So do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman, to authorize the
Contract, architectural services contract by Mr. Ritter.
so moved and signed by county manager, I assume?
We got a motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Kim, have a good rest of the day.
All right, item I, resolution regarding abandonment of a portion of Old Battle Mountain Road. Request by NCDOT District Engineer Andy Russell. Mr. Manager?
Yes, this request was submitted by Mark Berry. The request was to abandon 275 feet of road along Battle Mountain. State Road 1659. The Office Department of Transportation investigated it, found no adverse effects to the remaining adjacent state highway system resulting from the proposed abandonment. Thus, they are requesting this board's consideration in adopting a resolution to abandon the proposed segment of State Road 1659.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Higdon, second by Commissioner Young. Any questions?
Now, this abandonment means what, Derek?
Well, I thought, the only information that we've received about it is the
That's
letter.
very vague.
The resolution's included in the agenda packet, but
Yeah,
the
I
only
read that.
information that I've seen on this is what's included in the agenda packet.
It's down there by the storage units at old
Yeah.
I know exactly.
Creasel, and it's just a dead end.
Just a little, it's just that little short,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just. And he bought the storage unit.
And he,
Nice to get them connected.
does he own,
Not
he
yet.
owns both pieces of property?
They're up for foreclosure sale.
I believe he's bought all that. That's just a connector.
He ain't buying the storage unit.
I rented one from him.
Well, you didn't buy them yet.
I didn't, my family did, but
I mean, I can't blame him. I mean, there's no reason.
it's just, yeah.
No.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, item J, discussion regarding possible change in agenda format concerning the closed session. That's mine. We always have closed session at the very end of our meetings, and I'm just speaking from experience. When we're back there, we're tired, we're ready to get out of there. Yet, that's probably the time when we discuss some of the most important topics that we do as a board, and I'm just asking if we should probably discuss these at the beginning of the meeting. We might be more prompt with our meetings back there, and we might be a little bit more fresh and willing to go. Just a thought.
Let me just, Johnson's experienced this too. The school board does that manner this time, where they go in executive session after a few things. Only thing I've noticed, you got a downtime. You're just sitting there as a person.
Public. Yeah.
Public just sitting there. And I get there at 6 o'clock or 5:30, but if they have a long meeting, you could be sitting there waiting for them to come back out and interact. But prior to that, when I was on the school board, we did it like we're doing now.
And I'm good with that. Maybe just the leniency. We're gonna, if I think it as chairman, if I think, or whoever's chairman, not be me, thinks it's going to be a controversial topic that we need to have fresh minds on, maybe we might do it at the front, but other than that, maybe we'll just leave it as is.
We tried it one time in the
Have you?
middle, of the middle. Like when you got the old business, most of the time, closed session is old business, or sometimes. So we tried that, and, but sometimes it wouldn't last 10 minutes, and you know as well as anybody that it can last for an hour or more. And you like those folks sitting, because that's the only, we tried it in the middle, we have never tried it on the front end. I don't know, the press would appreciate it.
The front end, sometimes you are aware of the people that are waiting on you, and you progress some things.
Progress quickly.
Yeah.
Quicker
Right,
than normal.
right.
So, okay. Good deal. We'll move on. We'll take no action on that. Consent agenda. We can approve it or we can remove whatever we need to out of it.
What happened on C with that, Chairman, or Derek, Mr. Manager?
I'll let Derek give you the.
Yes, we sold the panoramic x-ray machine. It was originally part of the dental equipment that we auctioned to local dentists, and we had the panoramic x-ray machine that did not get auctioned off. Local dentist came and requested that he wanted to buy it, so we went through the process. We surplused it. He submitted a bid of $4,000. We advertised that bid for upset. There was no upset bid that came in. He paid the $4,000. We delivered the machine. He later came and asked me for a refund. I told him that I couldn't refund it because we have no, I have no policy in place by where I can do that. And he then requested what was the next step, and I said the Board of Commissioners is the only board that can waive fees. I reached out to each individual commissioner to try to gain consensus on refunding, because I said, you know, I denied the request and received at that time a 3-2 consensus to refund that, to refund the amount for that x-ray machine.
Let's just, how about this? Let's just pull that one off, the consent agenda, and let's approve the rest of it unless there's something else that way we can discuss.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of C, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bill. We'll get back to you, Josh. Okay. Second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good, aye, okay, good, yeah. That was 5-0, Mr. Decker. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I just kind of want to make that vote public, and nothing, I've heard great things about Mr. Brenner, but I want to read on the contract that he signed right here on 12/17/20. Asset is sold as is, where is, and without warranty. Once the asset is removed from the seller's premises, there is no refund of monies previously paid. And I worry about the precedent we may set if we start selling assets all over the community. And look, this is, he bought this for cents on the dollar. And it's a contract. And I want to be clear, that was a no vote because of the contract. Nothing personal. He signed a contract. And I feel like I owe it to our taxpayers that if it was my money, I'd be a whole lot more apt to give it back to him, but it's not. I worry about the precedent we set.
Sure. Good point.
And that was my logic, and so we were the two, I guess, okay. But I'm good with it, majority board, majority rules.
All right.
We've had this discussion, if there had been any of us on this board who had bought equipment, and some of us have, that didn't make it 10 feet up the road and blowed up, I can attest that they don't give you your money back.
I agree.
So it's one of those things that, and Josh is right, Dr. Brenner has done wonderful things for this community and continues. With the reading of that contract, you know, I'm sort of torn. Just wonder, Josh, would you consider, or Paul consider, giving half his money back? And I don't have a good reason to do that.
you know, like my renter serves on the board of health, great asset to the community, but it's.
I know. It's not good. It's,
Keep rule on the motion.
If we start selling on gov deals or we start selling somewhere, it's like a court
well, that's
case.
what I said. What,
We set
another
precedents.
dentist was there and he bought a lot of stuff. I was there at the auction. And, if he has, you know, that's the reason there's no warranty on it. If he starts
Josh.
bringing that stuff back,
I know.
We do sell on gov deals normally.
I mean, I bought something from Gov Deals,
Yeah.
got it home, and it wasn't even crank, it flop, and I lost my hind end. I mean, I
Yeah.
did, and like, we've all been there, but when I sign a contract like that, I'm fully aware that this part of the risk that I'm willing to take to put the money down. I mean, I'm sure it was a 30, 40, 50.
that's a great point.
$100,000 machine.
You can't deny that, Mr. Chairman.
And again, he's a great person, salt of the earth, but I just worry about what.
That's a great point.
Maybe, I think that I approached it from a personal standpoint, like maybe all that, and out of the heart, and wanting to, hopefully if I sold you a secondhand car and I told you it was a good car, that it would last. And I've had situations where they get down the road and all of a sudden the person walking back to the house saying, your car's sitting down there, I'd like to have my money back. And I gave them the money just to be a good neighbor. So I think we take personal things and put in these things. Maybe we should look at the contract wording a little bit and try to,
I'll be happy to read that.
no, you read it, I understand it.
You still driving that car too?
Yeah. Yeah, and, but I didn't know if, in the wording of the contract, it's black and white to me, and that's the first time I heard it there when you read it a while ago.
Clear.
I mean, it's hard, like you said, on a personal level, if this was my money and I sold him a chainsaw that didn't run, I would give him his money back.
Yeah.
But it's hard in the position that I'm in as a representative of the county tax dollars. It's not my money.
But then on the other hand, if you buy a dump truck from the DOT, like somebody I might do, and it blows up before you get to McDonald's, it did, you're hooked.
If this said right here, he had 30 days, or he had some kind of trial period, and we'd work with him, I would for sure sympathize.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying, maybe we should go back and look at that and see if there's a piece of, that you could use in there that would give a daily extension or hourly extension.
You gotta be careful.
Or says you can't do that.
It's pretty black and white. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
And again, that's why.
it
you know,
states
that's why
what
we
it
deny it.
states,
I
you
mean,
know.
It's hard, it's just hard, like I said, it's a lot of money, good guy. It's just tough.
Your thoughts, Mr. Chairman?
I've spoken to Dr. Brenner about it, and he pleaded a good case with me, so I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor for it, of giving the refund, so I guess we'll vote on it and see where we go. All right, all in favor of providing the refund signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So how did we end up?
3-2.
3-2.
Totally understand, totally understand.
And I think Josh is exactly right. It's a bad precedent, but you gotta look on the personal side. I know what this man, you know,
I know what he
you
does.
can't deny that.
All right, appointments, Board of Equalization and Review, 5 seats. Can we get a motion to approve? Can we read them off?
Yeah, please, I don't have that. I can't pull that up.
Bear with me, let me get to them. I can't remember them offhand. They're the same ones we've had, I believe. Dwight Benson, Donald Holland, Gary Drake, Christine Flagg, Richard Leitner. Term appointment is for 1 year.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you can't let that go by without mentioning the name you don't see on there no more. And I think we talked about before, Rich Bankston,
Yep.
who served diligently on that board for probably 2 decades, so just want to remember that.
Volunteerism tonight. Planning Board, we have 2 seats, Glenn Hedden and Carol Poindexter. 3 years.
Who is on the plan? Who did it? That's Josh. What do you think, Josh?
Great guys, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Bill. All in favor? Aye. All right, appointments are Gosh, we got out of here an hour quicker than I projected us to. I know we're gonna have need for a closed session, and we will be taking action. Well, I presume we'll be taking action.
Yeah, purposes will be to potential property acquisition and personnel.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys, we'll make it as quick as we can and get right back out here.
Motion to go into closed.
Motion by Commissioner Higdon, thank you, to go into closed session.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Young, all in favor? Aye.
I'm opposed there.
Gentlemen,
I know they want that.
they never have been. All right, call us back to order. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've received a contract here to move forward with the selection of a full-time county attorney. We've had a lengthy interview process, many reputable legal professionals and law firms came before us, and at this time, we have received a county attorney appointment and fee agreement from the term of Ridenhour and Goss. And at this time, in looking over this fee agreement, we will need to incorporate into it a not-to-exceed amount. Lori, what is your recommendation in terms of the wording that should be incorporated for a not-to-exceed fee amount?
Can you give us the name of the attorney that'll be named, please?
Eric Ridenhour of Ridenhour and Goss.
Thank you.
Yes, under that first section there just needs to be added a whereas the billing over a 12-month period shall not exceed $120,000.
Okay. With that recommendation, Mr. Chairman, this agreement is before you, and with incorporating that recommendation into this agreement, I now ask for the
All right,
pleasure
can
of the board.
we get a motion to approve Mr. Eric Ridenhour as the new Macon County attorney and approve his contract?
Make a motion to approve Mr. Ridenhour from the county attorney.
Got a motion by Mr. Young,
Second.
second by Commissioner Higdon. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, can we state for the record, what was that? Was that 5?
5-0. Yep.
5-0?
That was my understanding,
Yeah.
correct? Okay. Thank you.